don't turn it off, I just turn it on.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Since I got parents to worry about.
All right, right, 6:30.
Yeah.
Notice is hereby given that the Lago Vista City Council is holding a regular meeting on Thursday, November 1st, 2018, beginning at 6:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers at City Hall, 5803 Thunderbird, Lago Vista, Texas, as prescribed by VTCA Government Code Section 551.041 to consider the following agenda items. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown in the meeting notice. Sandra, please note that we have all of our council members minus our Mayor Pro Tem, Suzanne Bland. We have yourself, Josh, Danny, our police chief, Aaron as our legal counsel today, Dave, Star, Eric, and that is all I see at the moment. I know Roy will be in here at some point. I've seen him. All right, there he is. All right, if you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Right, citizen comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing, other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. And first of all, I have Jane Brunklick.
But you were gonna.
It's okay. Get out of my face. My name is Jane Brunslick. I live at 21815 Tallahassee. And I just had a couple comments and questions about our recent emergency. From what I've heard and understand, our EOM, our Emergency Operations Center, did a great job that Thursday getting people off the island, and the fire department went around individually, from what I've been told by homeowners, to warn them that the lake was coming up and it might come a little higher than predicted. So I think that was a pretty good job. And the city did a good job those first days, like the 17th and the 18th, in getting the word out. But then things went kind of dark over the weekend, and I know that City Hall is closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but maybe a little something could have come out just to reassure people a little bit. But then after that, we got into the recovery stage of the whole thing. And then it seemed we were a little bit behind on everything. We didn't have anything from the city come out specific to the flood between the 23rd and the 29th. And on the 29th, the Red Cross was going to be in town that day. Now, the word had gone out the day before from a citizen, and I bugged our mayor because I'm like, I was told not to put anything out unless it came from the city, and I saw nothing from the city. So I was very hesitant to let people know via Facebook. So over the weekend, I did some work with the volunteers, not the hard work. All I did was deliver supplies and stop and talk to people and tell them that there were people there to help them muck out and that sort of thing. But talking to homeowners, I met people who have lake houses here and they're from out of town. They don't know what's going on. They didn't know what to do with their trash. It would have been nice to have something out before that recovery part started about what to do with their trash and the debris and that sort of thing. And I'm sure that there are quite a few people that have lake homes here that don't live in town and might not know what's going to be happening. So maybe a little bit more proactive on that would help. And I just had a couple of questions. Is there a way that you know who is out-of-towners that you can locate them? Looking at our tax rolls or whatever. Also, did we use the emergency call system, the alert system? Because I don't remember getting a call.
We did on the very first day.
First day, okay. I thought maybe, but it was hard to remember. I was working and on the road, so. Did we use Lago radio? Yep,
Yes.
okay. Unless you're in the car, there's really no way to listen to Lago radio, but whatever. Next door is another place. I didn't see anything on next door. The big problem in this town, as we all know, is communication, and I don't have any solutions. All I can suggest is being a little bit more proactive, and I think we did a pretty good job. This flood gave us a chance to find out what more we can do for the next time, so.
Well, Jane, I can tell you, we will be putting together an after-action report.
I know.
Because I've got just as many questions of why things didn't work. Despite what I was being told,
Well,
you trust that it's going to work, and then you find out that it doesn't work, and by then you've already put the word out. So there's a lot of things that we have to go back and look at, and we will have to fix. So
yeah, I understand.
realize
And
that there
I
was
understand this was kind
shortfalls.
of unlike in any other floods we've had in recent history. But, there are things, I was given 4 different numbers at different times to tell people to call because we were told to get everybody to call one number. And Ed, because I talked to you about it, those numbers didn't work.
I know, but that's
And
at the time,
can
that's
you
what I
imagine
had,
the
but-
frustration of somebody who's got a house with 5 feet of water and call for 911? No, call 311. No, that doesn't work. Call this number. Call the city.
Right.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jane, if you don't mind, would you just take the microphone off and hand it to Dick, please? Dick, you're next.
I'll come up.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't fall down. I'll be all right.
I was trying to prevent that.
I know,
was
I know,
gonna let
but
you
if
stay seated.
I'm flat-handed, I'm okay. I'm a lot better than I was. I think as floods go, this was a pretty good flood. I think you guys did a pretty good job. That said, however, I see some opportunities. The biggest opportunity I see is everywhere we got a low water crossing, we need to fix it. They're a problem. And they're not expensive to fix because all you got to do is grab some large diameter concrete pipe and put it on top of the existing concrete pipe and cover it. You may have to do that twice. But down where I live on Coyote Trail, just right near where Paseo de Vaca comes in. And if we get any great amount of water, it doesn't have to be a flood, that low water crossing at Paseo closes, the one up the street closes, and now I've learned that the one coming down the hill on Paseo de Vaca from where the fire station is, or not the fire station, but the electric place is, that floods down at the campground. So, to me, it's a cheap fix. It could save somebody a heck of a lot of money. I don't know how much damage we got done in dollars and cents at the campground, but I think it was probably kind of tough. So that's what I got, just see an opportunity.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, that is all that I have signed up for general comments. Is there anyone who did not fill out a form that would like to speak on a non-agenda item at this time? Yes.
Robin Pond, Camille Court. Just want to again reiterate what's been said before, but I do respect the fact that everyone did a fantastic job in evacuating people. It was seamless, and appreciate all the efforts that you've made to talk with the civilians and help us to help our neighbors. But we want to do it in the right way, that we don't get in the way, that we cooperate, and we do appreciate everything you all have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Right, anyone else? All right, we're going to move into items of community interest. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, the city council may report on any of the following items: expression of thanks, gratitude, and condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, reminders regarding city council events, reminders regarding community events, or health and safety announcements. All right, first of all, I would like to also express my thanks to all the volunteers especially, and city staff that has pitched in over the last couple of weeks and worked on our flood situation. We definitely couldn't have got a lot of this done without our civilian volunteers working at Casa Mexico, working through the websites, putting together the crews, the actual physical labor crews, using the Zello app and going door to door and helping people with the muck out and picking up, pushing trash to the streets and things like that. So thank you everyone that has contributed so far and greatly appreciate it. I also want to express my condolences to the family of former Mayor Dennis Jones at this time. He passed away this past Monday, the 29th of October, and I believe it is at 2 o'clock, 2 to 4,
2 to 4 Saturday.
K Oaks Clubhouse. There will be
Or Sunday. Sunday.
services for him Sunday from 2 to 4 at K Oaks. If anybody would like to come and pay their respects to former Mayor Dennis Jones and his family. Let's see. Before the next council meeting, we have Veterans Day. We're looking at maybe holding just a little something out at the Veterans Memorial. We haven't quite got that completed, put together yet, but nothing big, just a small, maybe just a little gathering, just to say thanks to the veterans.
I think there is something at the high school also for Veterans Day.
The high school always does
Yeah.
something. I don't know what day it is yet,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the 11th is
Mr. Mayor, I checked on that today. It will be at 2 o'clock on Monday in the high school gym. If you are a veteran, if you're a citizen here in town and you have not gone to that, I would highly recommend that you attend that. It will restore your faith in our younger generation. I guarantee you, it is not something that you will be disappointed with. If you get the chance, Monday, 2 o'clock at the high school gym, it's worth being there.
Monday the 5th or Monday the 12th?
Next Monday.
No.
And it is
The 12th.
12th.
Okay.
That, whatever we celebrate is the Monday Veterans Day.
So Veterans Day is
That's
the 11th.
not this week, that's the next week.
Veterans
Yeah.
Day is the 11th. The thing at the high school will be on the 12th.
On the
Thank you.
12th.
2 o'clock, 2 p.m.
That's it.
All right, community events, starting Saturday morning, we're doing our Coyote Trail community cleanup. We will have dumpsters, roll-off dumpsters in the area for large bulky items. And that'll be Saturday and Sunday. And at the parking lot by the swimming pool, we have a collection site for household hazardous waste. We're collecting oil, antifreeze, paint, and electronics this go-around. We'll be doing other ones in the springtime, but that's what we're doing this weekend.
When you get to Coyote Trail, don't forget that mess that LCRA made behind my house is pretty much untouched,
Got it.
okay? The boys here have tried, but you can get very dug with it. Going down the wrong place, I know Roy's aware. But it's still, there's a whole lot of crap up there.
All right, thank you. And I think that is all that I have.
Yeah.
Dick?
I have two more things. Both of these have to do with our Lions clubs. The Leos, our high school age Lions Club people are going to be at Lowe's Market on Saturday. They're collecting canned goods for military families in need. Get a chance, go buy a few cans of canned goods and drop it off with them. Very worthwhile thing. On Sunday, November the 4th, this is for sure, I've got the pamphlet in front of me. But on November the 4th from 1 to 3 at the high school stadium, football stadium, we are having the Walk to Cure Diabetes. This is an informational thing. You can come out and walk. You don't have to walk. But everyone is welcome. It's an opportunity to come out and find out a little bit more about diabetes and its management. Any donations that are received will go to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation for their walk on November 11th. If you get the chance, please come out and join us. That's it.
Down here?
I'm good.
Kevin?
Mayor, first off, I wanted to thank all the folks, volunteers that helped last night with the abbreviated trunk or treat at both the police station and at the library. I think a good time was still had by all. Lots of kids came in with their costumes, looked great, and got candy and had fun, I think. So thanks to everybody that helped make that happen. And then next Wednesday, the 7th, the Friends of the Library will be having their annual fundraiser dinner at K Oaks from 5 to 7. The Lions will be doing their famous barbecue to for that dinner. So please come out and support the library if you can. And then finally, it's a little bit out, but the Friends of the Library will also be having their semi-annual book sale at the meeting room over here at the library at November 30th and December 1st.
Awesome, thank you.
Mayor, we've got a couple items on the expression of gratitude. One of the things that we tend to forget about because we have been so blessed is our water treatment and our wastewater treatment crews. As I've said a number of times, are so much better than everyone else's water treatment and wastewater treatment facilities, including everyone in the city of Austin, because we have had water nonstop the whole time. And, you know, we've had a couple incidents in this regionally, where Georgetown's been on complete boil and where the city of Austin was on a mandatory boil water. A lot of the restaurants had to shut down completely. Marble Falls had a number of instances. And one thing's for sure, our system stayed up and running, and it's because they planned well before instead of waiting for an event to happen. Small cities, it works a little differently so that you have a system of interconnected people, but I know that our crews are always aware of the impacts of turbidity and of how this lake system works, and between that management, we're just very confident that the system works unless the good Lord or PEC screws up our system. So we can keep our water safe. And so I think that's a fantastic thing for our guys to be aware of. And second thing is, on the 15th, which is our next council meeting that is after the election next Tuesday, we are going to have a reception for our outgoing city council members. That is at the library, and it's at some time that I'm not sure unless Sandra tells me. 4:30. That way it's before the meeting. We just now decided that's what we're going to be doing it. And so hopefully Ron and Mayor Pro Tem will be in town and be at that so we can enjoy the time to say thank you and to appreciate the wonderful efforts of these individuals serving on council.
Anything else? All right, thank you. We will now move into presentation. Number 1, presentation from the ESD number 1 Fire Department. Must be nice to have number 1 by your name.
Yeah, and I found out only recently how that came about. So, but I think we're number 1, so it was appropriate. So, anyway, Mayor, Council, City Manager, thanks for having me. I haven't been here for a year or so, and I kind of wanted to bring y'all up to speed on where we're at as the ESD and some of the progress we made and how that, directly impacts the city of Lago Vista. Clearly, y'all are the biggest portion of residents and the number of homes that we cover, but not the only areas that we cover. I gave you a document, and I'm not going to go through it, completely. If we can go to the next slide, please, Dave. ISO, I know you all have heard me preach about ISO since I've been here for nearly 5 years now as the fire chief. But when I came here in 2014, our last rating for ISO was in 2011, and they normally come out and do this every 10 years. I will tell you that we did not fare well in 2011. Lago Vista is a class 5. 1 is the best and a 10 is the worst. So class 5, well, it sounds like it's mediocre. It's really not mediocre in the impact that it has on the citizens due to insurance. Some of the things that we've already put into place has assured us in our evaluation that we're coming up in January that we will be a class 3. If you kind of look, I gave you the unofficial report from the individual who's our consultant, and basically he's telling us on the back of here's the points, that where we are today is we're in the 70-point range. So how this works is your points, if you're a 10 to 10-point range, you're a class 10. If you're 20 points, you're a class 9, so on and so forth. So a 70 gives you class 3. He gave us 10 items that we needed to do when he gave us his presentation that would put us in the 80s, which would make us a class 2. We've accomplished all those with the exception of 2 little items, and I think you all are going to address those tonight. One of them is adopting the Lago Vista fire code upgrade to the newer version of the fire code and a training facility, which, if we need to talk about that at the appropriate time, I will, but getting that underway. So that will pretty much assure, in fact, he says on here in his notes that he won't assure any score, but he's never got it wrong, and he's been doing it for a long time. So we feel pretty confident we're going to be a class 2. If we can go to one more slide. This is the points that I was talking about. So the right column is where we are today. So we've improved from a class 5 of 50 to today that we're a class 3, and this is district-wide. The biggest impact on this is not the city of Lago Vista, but I want to address it. So in our unincorporated area that we cover, and again, we're the largest fire district. We cover 178 square miles. So our unincorporated area where we do not have a fire station within 5 miles, they are currently a class 10, unprotected. Most of them are not even able to renew their insurance. So even those folks are going to go from a class 10 to a class 2 with the infrastructure that we put in place. Then we have the 8B class. We're a 4-split class. So we have 10, 8B. 8B means that you're out in the county, you have a fire station within 5 miles of your house, but you don't have a fire hydrant. And then we have a class 5, which is Lago Vista, Jonestown. And then we have one class 4, which is Point Venture, 2 square miles. So improving from a class 10, 8B, 5, and 4 to a class 2 district-wide is quite an accomplishment. And I'm not here to brag on myself and what we've done, but it puts us in a pretty shallow end of the pool in comparison to the rest of the country, if we can look at the next slide. So here's countrywide. There's a little over 50,000 communities that have been rated in the last year. So you can see the class 10s is 1,200 people, class 9, 7,400, so on. Class 5, 9,300 communities. So we are going to be one of 1,482 communities out of 50,000 in America that enjoys a class 2. There are only 305 class 1s. There's one class 1 in Travis County, City of Austin. There's one in Williamson County, which is Cedar Park. So we are knocking on the heels of being one of 305 departments in the country. The estimates that we put up here at the 80s actually is going to come in higher than what the consultant. The water came in a lot better than what we had anticipated on the way that the formula works. And we signed an agreement with Balcones, making them basically a part of our fire department. And they have a 4,000-gallon water tender and staffing there all the time. So adding their 4,000-gallon water tender has given us about 3.5 more points to what he initially estimated. So we're in the 85 to 87 range, and it takes 90 points to be a class 1. I mean, that's how close we are to being a class 1. And again, Travis County Emergency Services District 1 of 305 out of 50,000 is a pretty good accomplishment. And we couldn't have done those things without the support of Lago Vista City Council. And I'm actually on call. I apologize. Let me just see what this is. I'm not going anywhere, so we're good. lost my train of thought there for a minute. Oh, so we couldn't have done it without the support of the council and the citizens. You know, when we had the election for ESD 7 back in 2016, I was told it was a long shot. We could not do what we have done today with the money. In fact, we are still the smallest budget in comparison to all the other ESDs. And it doesn't have anything to do with except the property values. A home that's here is worth half of what it is across the lake. And, you know, it's just there. So we operate on a very small budget in comparison to what we're doing. We have about 18,000 rooftops that's in our district. The consultant and the Texas Department of Insurance tells us the average insurance premium for our district, you know, taken out of that 17,000 is about $1,750. That equates to somewhere around $37 million a year. And this savings here by Texas Department of Insurance and our consultant is about 18% average district-wide. So it's a little over $4 million a year is what we're going to be saving our homeowners in insurance by making the improvements. So the extra dime that they're giving us, the average of $300 a home, should negate that money in the way of insurance savings that we're giving back to them. So we're pretty proud of what we've done. We're proud to be able to serve the community and being a small department, but we're improving every day. And I think this will be the validation that it's not what we're saying. It's Texas Department of Insurance and ISO that comes in, and they're pretty strict on what they do, and they're not going to give us anything. So, you know, it's been earned by the cooperation that we have among the city, the police department. It goes a long way. The preemption, I forgot to mention that, you put on the traffic lights. We got 0.72 points, which it just gets us that much closer to that class 1 by having preemption on the traffic lights because they know it reduces response time. And I'll lead into that. I won't go into big discussion, but I'm going to be leaning, I'll go through the city manager. We want to get that preemption device at Loman and 1431. So that's a huge intersection. And when we have that new station that's going to be up on Bronco, it's going to be very difficult to get the fire trucks out of there with all the traffic coming if we don't have a green light. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult, but we'll work on getting it. We finally got the one in Jonestown at 1431 on Park Street. So I'm not worried about Dawn Drive. That's not too difficult. But maybe in the future, any new lights we put in, we can plan to put it. But retrofitting Loman and 1431 will be important. The next slide, please. So also in the state of Texas, there's a little over 2,000 fire departments. The Texas Fire Chiefs Association has a best practices recognition program for fire departments that are willing to go the extra mile and open up their books and how do you operate, what do you do, what's your daily operations, your daily staffing, what's the level of training for your personnel. It dives into, it's actually 20 different points of what you do in the fire department. It's a long process. It's taken us about 14, 16 months to be submitted, and we're under review right now. We were told that the official word is coming, but we are going to be recognized by the Texas Fire Chiefs Association. So there are 2,000 fire departments in Texas, and the white ones, that is every fire department in Texas is recognized. So it's 18 fire departments out of 2,000, and we're going to be number 19. Again, I think that's bragging rights for our city because we're not Travis County. We're the city of Lago Vista Fire Department. We're the city of Jonestown. Again, what it says on the truck is semantics. It's a funding mechanism, but I'm your fire chief. You know, so I think it's bragging rights for the entire city that we are one of 19 out of 2,000 in the state that has met the mark and will be validated as being a credible organization by the Texas Fire Chiefs Association. So we're pretty proud to be close to being on that list. I would hope that in probably April, May, when we have our ISO and we will put off the official award of this, if it comes, and I don't want to be too far ahead of this, we would make up any deficiencies. And I would love to have a joint council meeting between the three municipalities that we serve and an ESD board, maybe at K Oaks, and have the Texas Fire Chiefs Association come out and have ISO and not award this to ESD1. I want it to be awarded to our 3 cities. Again, this is all of us. It's not an ESD1 effort. And I think it's bragging rights for the entire community that we're one of 19, or we're one of 19 out of 2,000, or one of 1,300 out of 50,000. So we're definitely at the shallow end of the pool when it comes to recognition of the fire departments. The next one here. the thing I want to touch on, and it kind of looks like that maybe we were ill prepared for this flooding, but we have been talking about putting a true emergency operations center here that would be co-shared among Jonestown, Lago Vista, Point Venture, and then even the county could come out. We have been talking about that, the mayor, city manager. In fact, I wrote a paper that got published nationally on integrating emergency services districts into the cities, and it was working well. And then when the Lago Vista Village came up, then the space became available, the light kind of came on of where we could put this emergency operations center. If you're not familiar, I mean, here's just a few bullet points. You know, it's basically the communication piece that was missing. Where do we all go? What phone number do you call? Where does the news media go to? So it is a central point of a contact for everybody. When we have another flooding event, the three mayors would come there, the city managers would come there, the police chief, I would go there. We would all be in one room. We would be talking among ourselves. We could push out information in a joint PIO thing, and it would be a more organized way to handle these events. It's the way they do it in the big cities. When it's Lago Vista only, it's financially challenging to put something together, Jonestown. But we're such a big community that I think that we can cost share this in a way that it would be beneficial to the citizens. It would be little impact on the budget, you know, co-shared among the three municipalities and the ESD. And it would be something that would make us stand out among everybody else. And we would be a little bit more prepared. We could have that one phone number. And, you know, again, I don't want to go into details, but just to kind of let you know that I'm going to be putting a presentation together. I've already talked to the city manager, and we haven't talked numbers, but hoping that we can get some support and fund our emergency management. Right now, our emergency management, it doesn't have a formal budget or any mechanism of funding. I am going to hire somebody in January, whether I do it on my own budget that I don't have, or hopefully we can cost share this at a minimal amount. I'm going to put somebody on staff 32 hours a week, and his job is going to be my deputy emergency management coordinator. He's going to go to every class, every meeting, every whatever, and we're not going to miss another step. So I can't do it, but again, that person will be co-shared among the entire 178 square miles, 3 cities, and the unincorporated areas, that we would have a dedicated person. And I think it would make us more functional versus have our duties split and we're trying to do this and do that. This person will be dedicated to that role. Go to the next slide, please. That's just more on the EOC, the scope, and what we do. I think we all have an understanding of what it is. You'll have this PowerPoint should you have any questions, or you can call me. We can go to the next one. This is kind of a picture of what it looks like. Obviously, we're not going to be quite this sophisticated. This is a bigger city, but you know, you'll have the tables and a phone and the weather maps and a lot of things that we can be looking at. And we have a lot of this technology at the ESD. It's just we don't have a place to channel it, to put it up and to look at it and have it, and we're setting it up and tearing it down. We have a board meeting, it goes down, we have this. So it's not really functional if it's not a permanent place where it's there all the time. So here's a little bit smaller one. This is probably a smaller community. There are whiteboards, everything's not electronic, but again, the police chief, fire chief, and everybody. So I think we would have been better. I don't think the outcome would have changed. I believe that we did a very good job when this event started, and I'll wait for the after action, but I want to touch on it just a second. Chief Smith's staff and my staff were talking well before the floods came. We had everybody evacuated. We had shelters in place. We stood up and tore down shelter 3 times, and we didn't have a single person who wanted to be there. So we took care of the life safety aspect of it. We kept anybody else from getting hurt. We couldn't mitigate the water. We just had to wait till the water recedes, and then we moved into the recovery aspect of it. So this is what we had. This is the final one. We set up the initial shelter that was over at the Performing Arts Center at the school. Again, we were there. We had staff. We had police officers and firefighters there. We were asking everybody if they needed a place to go, and no one wanted to be there. So when we tore it down at the Performing Arts and we moved it to the station in Jonestown, let me go to the next slide. So we had cots and beds set up, and it looked really cool, but no one used them, and that's okay. But it would be nice if we kind of had a place that was in a little bit more permanent. I'm working on an ILA with the county, with the mayor of Jonestown is helping me do it, where we would make the community center in Jonestown would be our permanent shelter. We would keep all these cots there, and it's a pretty easy place to convert. They've got kitchen, all the facilities that are there. And basically, if the county says no, and looking at the Texas law, the mayor can commandeer it anyway. So it'd be better just that they do it. So it's going to happen whether the county says okay or not, but that will end up being our permanent shelter. It's not going to flood there, and the appropriate facilities are there that we can house some people, temporarily until we find them something different. So that's just another look at what we had. We've got 40 of these cots. We got them from the military a couple years ago, and they're all brand new. They've never been slept on. They're all in boxes. So we have about 30 of them, 28 or 30, something like that. So we're somewhat prepared, but in this event and where it hit, it was more of an affluent area, and people just didn't need sheltering, but had they needed it, it was available to them. That's basically it for the presentation. Again, I love the cooperative effort that we have. I will tell you that other ESDs and the municipalities within their cities does not enjoy the relationship that we enjoy with our three cities. That's a credit to, I think, the leadership of the cities, and I think the view of they look at themselves as not being a part of the city, and I very much think I'm a part of the city. I think the financial arrangement we have, that it benefits all three cities, that Lago Vista probably can't afford to buy 2 ladder trucks and 2 pumpers and 2 ambulances and staff all of them all the time. But when you divide that money out among the citizens in the unincorporated area, it financially, it works pretty well. So that is basically the end of my presentation, unless y'all have any questions or you want to talk about if I need to speak on the drill tower. I know that's a variance that's up tonight.
I had 4 questions. First one, how many ESD counties are there in Texas?
I don't know the number. I'm going to take a stab and say there's probably about 20. Yeah, it is not the
normal.
It's not. So in the North Texas area, Dallas County, Collin County, all that, none of that is ESD. There are 1 or 2 in Weatherford, which is. My mind has slipped. I'll think of that county, Palo Pinto.
Parker County?
Parker County, that's it. So there's 1 or 2 there. Now Houston, Harris County, that is all ESDs. And then, of course, we're ESDs. Montgomery County is huge into ESDs. And there may be a few more sprinkled around somewhere, Ron, but there's not very many counties that have ESDs.
So we'll be the one ESD in the entire state that's recognized?
We actually no. There's 2 other ESDs in the state that has been recognized. Hutto Fire Department, which is they are Williamson County ESD 3. They just go by Hutto Fire Department. Okay, and then Montgomery County ESD 8. They are I think their budget is like $41 million. So it's
that's over
a couple dollars more than mine. Yeah, so we will be the third ESD in the state to be recognized. I wish I could say that we were the first, but we're not. But we are competing against very large departments that are not recognized. Either they don't want to do it. I'm not sure. I can't speak to them, but who would not want to have third-party validation by the most powerful fire voice in the state of Texas saying that you're a credible entity? So we did it. We're going to continue to do it, and we're working on our national accreditation. I won't bore you with the numbers, but it gets into a lot of analytics and standards of coverage and some things that we have to continue to improve on. Nationally accredited, I think it's 1,700 organizations. If you know anything about me, knows this is a starting point. There's no way we're not going to get there. I just don't know how fast we're going to do it, but it's on my bucket list, and we're going to be nationally accredited. But I won't quit, but unless I get fired, it is on my radar that we're going to be nationally accredited before I leave here. So.
Okay, and if the ISO rating 2 goes into effect in January, that means we really won't see that till probably this time next year?
It won't go into effect in January, but it won't take as long. So here's the process, and I've become an ISO expert, and I don't say I'm an expert in much, but I've entrenched myself. They come on January 3rd. They have 30 days from January 3rd to submit their report to a copy to me and to the Texas Department of Insurance. If we as the ESD agree with the report and the Texas Department of Insurance doesn't see anything with it, then it's published. They have 90 days. Texas Department of Insurance has 90 days to publish it and it becomes into effect. If we disagree with it in those times, then we have 90 days to challenge it, and then the Texas Department of Insurance comes out and they mediate the challenge. The only way I would challenge it if we've got a high 70 something and we need an 80, and our consultant's telling us there, well, we're going to challenge it. They need to show us why we're not there. But I'm not concerned about it. So anyway, if there's no challenge, 120 days from January 3rd would be a target date. Now, I will tell you that the insurance companies are not going to go back and retroactively rebate money to people who don't ask for it. And the insurance companies probably won't even know that this went into effect until they go to renew your policy, because at that time, that's when they start collecting data again. Check your credit, what's your ISO score. But if you know you're a class 2, you can absolutely go back to the insurance companies and tell them your PPC class rating had changed. And I can't speak for the insurance companies, but it's my understanding that they will happily refund that money, because the additional premiums that they charge does not negate the losses that they have when you have a poor fire department. And we were not a great fire department in 2014. I mean, it's right here in front of us, and it is what it is, and we can't look backwards. And we're a pretty darn good fire department today. And I'm embarrassed to say that. I'm not trying to brag on me, but we've worked hard to get where we are. And I think the class 2 will validate that. So the insurance companies are happy to give you the less money, because their profit margins are higher, because they know the losses will be less.
Okay, so I guess the answer to the question is the citizens need to take action with their insurance companies once you're ISO 2 or greater.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, do you have a target date for when you're hoping the new fire stations will be open?
I was told that 300 days from today, barring any other snags or delays.
Next fall.
Yeah, so that's, and I'm sure it's a swag. They would like to have it done. I mean, the biggest portion of the money comes at the end of the contract. So, it's structured in a way in which it's to their best interest to get it done. So we're looking at about 300 days-ish.
Thank you.
So it's a lot of dirt work. I never even realized it, until you see the dirt work being done. It's a lot of digging.
Yep.
So, but I think it's going to be beautiful. I'm really excited about Lago Vista Village. I think that and the fire station is going to really lend to the appearance and the aesthetics that when you drive through Lago Vista, Texas, and you see what's on 1431, will make it very enticing for people to want to live here. So I'm excited at what it's going to look like in a year from now. Mayor?
I have a request.
Okay. You're the boss.
I've got a contact that I've been working through, but if you could also, in your position, we need to fix our 311 system.
Well, we don't have a 311.
That's what we figured out.
Yeah. So,
But we were told we should, according to Travis County, the people I've talked to at the Travis County EOC, we should, because we belong to the regional 911. We should also, in their mind, should belong to the 311 system. And they don't understand why our prefix or our tower is not pinging.
because we have our own PSAP, because we are not a part of the region. We are our own standalone entity, which is in the best interest of us, so that we don't get lost in the queue. So when you dial 911 in Lago Vista, it does not go to Travis County Sheriff's Office and passed around the horn. As you know, coming from dispatch, it goes directly to Lago Vista PD, and the police officers or the fire department, everybody's coming, pretty quick. We have a pre-alert to it. So the only way that we have 311 is if we want to invest in that infrastructure to put 311 in. But I think that getting a common number that could be 267 help, 267 something, and when there's not an event going on, I'm thinking way outside the box, that we have a recorded message or we have that number forwarded to the PD or the fire department. I don't want to speak for Chief Smith, but we can forward that number to someplace. But when we have a flooding event going on, then we need to have somebody sitting there 24/7, and they just get conditioned that that's their number to call. I don't think that investing thousands of dollars in 311, and it may be tens or hundreds of thousands, I don't know what that figure looks like, but a phone line is pretty cheap, and if we can have some kind of a catchy of the last four numbers, everybody knows the 267. So, we can come up with something, 267 Lago, 267 help. I'm not sure, but we can have a number that simulates the 311 effect without paying that money and putting the infrastructure in. And then you run the risk when you have that, and I'm sure I'm getting way too complicated, if they call from a cell phone and we have that 311, their 311 may go to the city of Austin, and it may not even come here. So it's a very complicated, sophisticated system that 311 is probably, anything can be done, but I don't think that is the financial or the logistical way to handle it. For our area, I think a number that we know where it's going and we know who's going to answer the phone is
I'm
probably.
just worried because since we have 4 different entities, Point Venture, Lago, Jonestown, and county, if that one PSAP would cover all 4 of those entities, or
Well, I'm the common denominator. So I'm the emergency manager for all that. So if we have the common EOC, and I can tell you that if Chief Smith gets a phone call from somebody that's in the county that needs assistance, they're not going to say, call the county. We have a relationship that we communicate that. So from my standpoint, when someone calls for help, we don't care where you live, other than are you on the north side of the lake? Do you live in Travis County? You're on the north side of the lake. We're going to help you. We've had Lago Vista police officers help us evacuate homes in Jonestown last year. I mean, so the boundaries, when there's an emergency, there are no boundaries among the public safety agencies here. So again, it's probably a conversation for the city manager, but I don't think the one common number is going to be a detriment as long as we look at it as we are a community and take down the city boundaries. It's an emergency. Help our neighbors wherever that help may be, and look at it from that standpoint. I think 1-267 something number would be just fine.
So is that something we have to do, or is that something we do through you?
Well, so it would be a cooperative effort. I'll just lay it out. So finishing out and paying the lease on the EOC and hiring a person, I'm looking at, I come up with a mathematical way to do it. I'm thinking of somewhere around $3 or $4 per jurisdiction per citizen that they have there, and that funds this. So Lago Vista's 7,000 people, so $28,000 a year. Jonestown's 4,000 people, so $16,000 a year, and that funds a full-time person. It pays the rent on the facility. It pays for the phone line. It buys the computers. It puts all the infrastructure in, and it's already in place. It's not something that we tear down, stand up. As each city gets bigger, your cost share goes up by, again, $4, we'll say, just for conversation piece, and that's the only fair way that I can see. What does Lago pay, and why is Point Venture paying $20,000 and Lago's only paying $20,000? So I think going off of a population, and that puts us that will fund the whole mechanism. So
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
anybody else up here? All right, you have people in the audience that have some questions for you, if that's
Sure.
okay?
No, yeah, sure.
Chief,
Mayor, yes, sir.
if you've got time, could you tell us a little bit about your EMS, ALS, development, training, number of ambulances, all that, and the response times that you've been able to achieve?
I can. So again, I keep going back to 2014, but that's my benchmark. That's the baseline. That's all I can compare it to, because that's when I came here, is in 2014. So our average response time district-wide was 22 minutes. So if you dialed 911 for a high-priority call in Lago Vista, Point Venture, Jonestown, or wherever it was, the average response time was 22 minutes. Now, that wasn't because they were bad people doing bad things, but you had 6 people on duty running out of 3 fire trucks covering 178 square miles. You know, that you can kind of do the math on that. And our closest western station, even as of today, is Jonestown. So Jonestown goes all the way to the Burnett County line. Where's our growth? It's going west. So we're behind the 8 ball when you get out of the station. No matter how quick we are, if you look at your computer, it tells you you're 17 minutes away. You're behind the 8 ball. Through funding of different mechanisms, what we've done, so we now every day have 16 people on duty. We had 2 ambulances in the area, which is doing a great job. You know, sometimes people misunderstand my fight with EMS is not about their quality of care. It's the quantity of ambulances is out here, because 2 ambulances cannot effectively cover 178 square miles when your turnaround time is 2 hours. When you're taking somebody down to St. David's or something, then we're down to 1 ambulance. We all know what 1431 is like, and we have a lot of medical calls out here. So I come from a fire-based EMS world. I don't want to bore you too much, but I've been a paramedic for 30 years. And every place I've ever worked, every firefighter is a paramedic, and every paramedic's a firefighter, and the ambulances are red like the fire trucks, and that's just the way we do it. That's not the norm for this area, but we did it anyway with a lot of resistance, I will tell you. So we have 2 ESD1 ambulances. On June 1 of 2014, our staff was 24, and we had 1 paramedic. It was me. Today, we have 54 on staff, and we have 36 paramedics. That's an unprecedented number in 3 years. I'll just tell you, we have 36 paramedics, 11 advanced EMTs, and then the rest are all certified at the EMT basic level, which is still a very, very good people. So our average response time right now on priority 1 calls is 11 minutes and 36 seconds or 11 minutes and 56 seconds. I see those numbers all the time, and they're numbers. So we basically cut the response times in half by adding more people, keeping trucks in response, and then having ambulances available. So having our 2 ambulances that are here that can respond to the calls. And every one of our fire trucks is basically an ambulance without a cot. Every fire truck that's the front line has at least 1 paramedic on it every day, and it has the whole cadre of advanced life support equipment. I mean, when we come to your house, whether it's in an ambulance or a fire truck, we can literally bring the emergency room in your house. We're on the phone with a doctor. We have medication. We carry 71 medications in our ambulance, in our fire trucks as well. So we're bringing that to you, and just having the additional resources. We have a lot of duplications of calls, meaning that when we get that first call, we usually get the second one, and then the third one comes in, and then the fourth one comes in. And so now we're able to handle that second, third, and fourth call, that we're not having to clear a unit to free up to go to the next call, that we have enough resources available that they can do it. Adding these 2 other fire stations, by the analytics that was put together by our ISO consultant, they think that we will meet the national benchmark, which is 90% of your calls in 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Because 40% of our calls comes from Loman and 1431. If you put a 5-mile radius circle, Loman and 1431, 40% of our calls comes from there, and our closest fire station is Jonestown. So adding that additional station there will shave a lot off. In our Allegiance station, which is going to remain just without full-time staffing, moving that out to Loman and Boggy Ford, it'll shave that 9-minute response time going down to Point Venture. So we'll have a 3 or 4 minute response time going down to Point Venture to the gate, and we're not losing any time to speak of going back down Boggy Ford. I mean, we're talking seconds, not even a minute, by shooting out of there, because we'll have a green light. Thank you for putting the preemption there. So a lot of the things that we have to deal with traffic-wise, it'll be gone. So just having what is called in the fire service world standards of coverage, while we've improved by adding resources, now we're adding stations to distribute those resources better. So we will probably be meeting the national standards within a year. And right now we have shaved our response time kind of nearly in half over the last 3-4 years. So, and doing a good job. I will touch a little bit. If we get close to the 1, again, I can only go by what's in front of you, what was told to me. If we're within a few points of being our class 1, and that's important to me, that's bragging rights. And I want it. If we were to replace the 2 City of Austin ambulances, and he actually put this in here, with 2 more ESD ambulances that had firefighter paramedics on them and not just paramedics, that gives us another jump on points, because right now we don't get any credit for the city ambulances because they're not firefighters, but we get credit for our ambulances because they're firefighter paramedics. Right now, the Travis County pays a little over $3 million a year for 2 ambulances. So we run 2 ambulances, an ESD 1, and our net cost of that's about $800,000. So there are $2.2 million more expensive to run 2 ambulances than we are. The only way that I would be able to make that happen, to get the county to help us fund 2 additional ambulances, is with the support of y'all in Jonestown and Point Venture. Right now, it's not worth the fight because it's working and it's not direct an impact on our budget. But if we get within a couple points and we need that, then I think we need to work towards getting that class 1 and just replace those ambulances at a savings of $2 million a year to the taxpayers. And then I would have control over what goes on with all of EMS in our district. And right now, coexisting with the 2 city ambulances is working fine. So as you know, Mayor, it's locution. So when a call comes in to 911, the call taker puts in the data, and then the computer diagnoses the call. It tells what the call is, and it picks the appropriate whatever needs to go, whether it's a fire truck, an ambulance, whatever. And then when it picks the appropriate unit, the computer goes out and by AVL, it finds the closest whatever that's supposed to go on that call. So they see our ambulances just like a city ambulance. So right now, it doesn't matter whether it's green and blue or it's red and white. The system picks the closest ambulance. And like I said, it's working well. They're very competent. but they're not vested in our community like I think that we are. They're not a part of our community. They serve us well, but, I would rather live with family than friends. So that's just kind of the way I see it, but anyway.
Dick has a call.
I'd like to give you a report.
Yes, sir.
End of September, I did that help I fell and I can't get up.
Yes, sir.
And I not only couldn't get up, I couldn't move toward the door. Because I could have gotten the door open and at least screamed at somebody. But I finally found a way I could call 911. And I did, and 22 minutes later, I had two people here, two crews here from Johnstown, one from over here. I had a police cruiser. My neighbors were all, what's going on? Is he dying? Are we finally going to get rid of him?
Yeah.
No. But I'm impressed.
Well, thank you.
I think you did a great job. So now that brings a question.
Yes, sir.
I have an insurance company. How can we publish something, and I'm thinking perhaps these guys have got the ability to do it. It's a little card that we can mail to our insurance company that says, hey, wake up, you're gonna owe us a little bit of money.
Well, I mean, we would absolutely, I have no problem with printing a card. Let me tell you, when we get our ISO Class 2, I'm not going to keep it a secret. So I will be bragging. Y'all get tired of hearing it. Yeah, I tell you, because it's, I'm going to be proud of the fact that we've done that for our citizens because they gave us the money to do it. They trusted us enough to win the election based off of what we said we thought we could do, and now it's coming home, and we're going to be able to do what we said we could do. So I want everybody to know that we're a Class 2, and I don't mind helping to come up with something to make sure our insurance companies know it. And our insurance agents that's in this area, they have a vested interest in it too, and I don't think they're going to be quiet about it either. They'll want to do it. So anyway.
I believe you have one more directly
Yes.
behind you.
Yes.
Hi. How would you recommend us to establish a communication connection with the civilians? Some people have talked about wanting a CERT team out here. That's a well-organized program. What we had this time was very bumpy organization of volunteers trying to kind of patch things in and so forth, not as well defined and managed as a CERT would be. So we obviously have people who want to help. How can we work with you, for you to give us guidance upon maybe CERT and maybe a group of volunteers who want to help when something unusual happens?
So I'm a big fan of CERT. It's a coordinated effort before the fact. It's a certification program that is a part of FEMA, and I really like that. Speaking to this event, I think a lot of the confusion is we weren't following the steps of a disaster. So you have the event, then you have to mitigate the event, and then you move into recovery. Well, we were still in the middle of the event, and a lot of people want to move into recovery. So, and I was until the rattlesnakes were gone, the water had receded, everything was gone. We did not need to worry about recovery. That we were just adding more harm to the situation by even worrying about recovery. The life safety aspect of it was mitigated. We had no one in harm's way. The water damage, whether we cleaned that home today or in a week, it's already damaged. So I think the confusion came that we had a lot of good people wanting to do good things. No doubt about it. But they wouldn't just let us do our job and wait to ask for that help because we weren't in a position of needing the help. As far as pushing out the information to everybody, I could have publicized that on every website, everything in the world to 50,000 people, county-wide or whatever, but it wouldn't have changed the impact because the police department, door to door, person to person, face to face, the fire department, door to door, face to face. So if we have talked to the affected person, I don't know how it would have changed anything to put it on Facebook other than letting the people know that weren't affected what's going on. And I will tell you personally that I had a number of people tell me that they did not want anything about their area to be publicized. They didn't want anybody in their homes. They didn't want anybody around their homes. They didn't want anybody to be there, and we were respecting their wishes. So so the CERT, to answer your question directly, would be more of a coordinated effort. When we get in this situation again, we let the event happen, life safety, stabilization of the incident, and then we move into the recovery, and that's when we can have the organized that we send out the page, the phone call, however we notify you, we are ready for cert. But we were having meetings about recovery, and I didn't see the need for recovery because we were still in the middle of the event and more rain coming. So, yes, sir.
So, you know, the hardest part of dealing with a flood like this one, and in my experience, several floods, is the LCRA tends to take a more conservative view at the beginning of one of these events as to what's going to happen with the lake. So the reports that were coming from LCRA at first were saying, well, we expect the lake to get up to a certain elevation. Then the very next day, you would see a revision of that elevation change. And then the next day, it's, oh no, we're going to be flooding a lot of houses. To the point where it was said, we're going to open 8 floodgates on Mansfield, which means if you look at what that actually means, they were fearful that it was going over the spillway, and that would become an uncontrolled flood. So it's very difficult to plan what you need to do as a homeowner to take action to prevent property loss. So I think what did happen and where CERT would have been very helpful is in getting people's ability to move their property out of harm's way. I think you're right, there wasn't a life safety issue, except, I don't know, trying to get your couch up the stairs by yourself.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, we actually offered that assistance to people. So let me tell you, we did not take LCRA's number. Chief Smith, Captain Reyes, Captain Buckley, that works for me, they've been through this many, many times. They were adding a cushion in there, so if they were saying 710, they went, I don't know the specific number, they were looking at 715, 720. So we were looking at worst case scenario. I will tell you the firsthand that everybody that was approached, and it was door to door to door, repeatedly, well before the event, asking people, you know, what do you need? You need something moved? And any need, anything that anybody addressed on that day and the day after, if they needed something moved, and we moved a lot of furniture, believe me, we did. We moved it. Now, there are those people, Jane, that, you know, that doesn't live here, that are lake house folks and so on and so forth. And I don't even know if calling them is going to, you know, make a difference in how we do that. But I think that if you have a lake house home here and you want us to call you in an event, it's up to them to probably put a plan in place and for us not to try to track them down. And
LCRA actually has that. They'll call you
so,
if they're going to flood you.
Yeah, so
just have to be on the list.
I rate the whole thing an A+. I saw some C's and D's, but at the end of the day, you know, no one was harmed that should not have been harmed. No house was flooded that couldn't have been prevented. No furniture or anything was damaged that couldn't have been undamaged, and we did not allow anybody else to go into the area that needed to be done. And we assisted every single person with every need, whether it was something that would be done in the big cities or not. Chief Smith and I decided there would be no unmet needs. Whatever people needed, we were just going to work outside of the norm, and we did that. Our crews, not bragging, we even to today, every day they're going down there and helping people move stuff and do some things. So I know folks think we didn't move fast, but we didn't need to move fast. We needed to wait until the water receded, until it was safe to get in there, because it wasn't going to make a difference. It was just going to look good, you know, that people were in there doing things. But it didn't make sense to be in there, and I take all the pressure, heat for that. I'm the one that stopped it. Until the water's gone, the damage is over, we're not going to go in there. It just doesn't make sense.
All right.
Chief,
Thank you, sir.
I have one question for you. You mentioned the need for investigating the upgrade on Bowman Ford and 1431. I think it's important that we investigate the cost to put that preemptive device in there. Would it help you any if we did the same thing here at the end of Dawn and Loman? Would that be something that?
So I won't turn it down, sir. You know, it's not a high priority. That's not a tough intersection for us to get through. But if we don't have to stop at a red light, I mean, you know, fire doubles every 60 seconds. And when you're in cardiac arrest, you get to about, you know, 6.5, 7 minutes and you're no longer viable. So many times seconds are there. It's not a huge problem, but if the funding was there, I can tell you it's about $5,000 a light to do it. The light at Dawn and Loman would be pretty easy because I believe y'all are the authority having jurisdiction and we don't have to get involved with TxDOT.
Right.
Now, I won't even go into what I went through, but I would tell you that we had the money sitting there for 14 months to do the light at TxDOT and it got turned on today. So
The one in Jonestown?
the one in Jonestown, it's a nightmare to deal with it because it makes sense. So you don't want to call text out with anything that makes sense because you're not going to get it done. You have to come up with some stupid stuff and you might get it done. So we have a battle ahead of us to just get them to approve it. And they're going to have to add an arrow when you're going south on First Street. It's First Street on the north side, but if you're going south on First Street, there's no turn arrow. So it's going to have a turn arrow, which in itself, even if we don't do the preemption, it's becoming kind of a dangerous thing because JJ's and Oski's is getting busier and busier, and you have that morning coffee traffic, and they're coming out wanting to turn left or onto 1431 to go into Austin to work. They don't have a protected lane, so I mean, you sit there in the morning, there's a lot of close calls, and that backs up. So even if we don't get the preemption aspect of it, and I don't know if Chief Smith agrees, but we need to get a protected turn arrow where you can go east on 1431 when you're headed south, First Street or Loman Ford, however you look at it. But that's not there as it exists today.
Yeah, the reason why I asked the question about Dawn is because I know it sounds to me like you don't really have a major problem getting through that light if you're on Loman, but if you're having to turn, if you're having to turn onto Dawn, that would probably help you. I mean, if you were coming to help us here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be a help. It would absolutely help, and if the funding and the will and cooperation was there, I'm all over it. So if I have to pick and choose one or the other, we do one this year, one next year, and again, I don't know where we're at on that, but I would absolutely vote for the big major intersection. If there's a way we could do it, it would just make us a better city. The ambulances, whether it's ours or EMS, they actually have preemption on them, so it would benefit not just our agency, but it would also benefit the city of Austin apparatus. And again, it's about $5,000 a light. Loman at 1431, maybe a few dollars more because they're going to have to put that arrow in there. I'm not an expert on that, but it's not as insurmountable amount of money as one would think, going into it. So, and we split the cost with Jonestown on the light. I think it was $2,300. It was our cost share to do the one in Jonestown. So it's not huge, but the seconds that it ticks off, the response time is it's valuable.
Yeah. Could be critical. Thank you very much.
All right. I believe that's it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do I need to stay to speak about the training tower variance, or do I wait until that comes up?
That's up to you.
I'll stay. I'll take that with me. I wasn't done. All right, public hearing. Number 2, the Lago Vista City Council will hold a public hearing to discuss and consider ordinance number 18-11-01-01, an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning Lot 5 less the eastern 20 feet of Block G, Section 2 of the Lago Vista Estate Subdivision, known as 6304 Loman Ford Road, from the C1C Professional Business Office Low-Density Retail Zoning District to the C2 Commercial Large-Scale Zoning District. I will open the public hearing at 7:38 p.m.
Mayor, just as a point of reference before Roy presents, this is continuation of the public hearing that was on the last meeting. So we're continuing the public hearing, and this is the second hearing on this item.
I stand corrected. I did not open the public hearing at 7:38. It was already open.
Reopened it.
I reopened it at 7:38.
Thank you, Mayor. As the city manager reiterated, this is the agenda item that was discussed at your previous meeting. It's the property that's at the northwest corner of Loman Ford and Dawn Avenue. The owner of the property anticipates retirement and desires to market the property and would like to open the potential users to a wider range of uses, consistent with what the narrative in the comprehensive plan says. As I pointed out last time, this property kind of pointed out to the Planning Commission that there seemed to be what looks like an oversight in the future land use map that was adopted as part of the comprehensive plan. And they, in fact, had that on their agenda last month. And at your very next meeting, you will see a recommendation how to correct what they feel is certain as an oversight and simply correct the properties. As you may remember from last month, the future land use map says to take a number of commercial properties, this being one of them, and downzone them to low-density residential. That's probably not something you want to do, and there's similar examples of it in this general area of Loman Ford that just seems to be a mistake.
Thank you. Questions? All right, anybody from the audience? All right. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:40 PM. Now, point of order, is this on, it's not under action?
It is action.
We've had the
Yes,
two
sir.
hearings.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right,
It's in a separate category because it's a public hearing.
okay. I just wanted to make sure. Point of order. All right, so any further council discussion? And I'll entertain.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 18-11-01-01.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. All right, action items. Yes. Action and or vote may be taken on the following agenda items. Number 3, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 18-11-01-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, amending sections 3.106, 3.107, 3.108, and 3.109 of Chapter 3 of the Lago Vista Code of Ordinances to update various standard building codes to a recent version and providing for related matters. And let's see, Roy again.
Well, it's easier this week. I can just refer to the presentation that you just heard. That's exactly why we're doing this. It was on our plate to do it. They told us about the fact that they were getting their ISO. We had already had our review. We told them we were going to do it during our review. They'd offered us the additional points that we were going to get and nailed them down, but we were certainly willing to expedite it ever so slightly, the process to accommodate ESD1's accommodations. After all, we're all going to benefit from those premium discounts.
And we're looking at the 2015 code?
Yes, sir, and I don't know if the chief is going to agree with me, but, I liken it to beta testing software. What I would say is industry best practices is not to adopt the most recent code, but to adopt the one right behind it. Typically, the 2018 versions are out there, but they'll be finding the bugs, and there'll be a couple of revisions for much longer. And that's what I consider to be the standard practice, is to stay one version behind.
Roy's right, I agree 100%. It would not be prudent to adopt the 2018 code right now. We would be going back and amending, and so the 2015 is the most logical to do, and it would be consistent with the rest of the area.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion to approve the ordinance number 18-11-01-02?
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Number 4, discussion and consideration of resolution number 18-1773. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, suspending the effects of Section 3 .124 of Chapter 3 of the Lago Vista Code of Ordinances relative to the exterior finishes of the firefighter training tower to be located at 4711 Loman Ford Road and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Yes, sir. And just a minor correction, and it's a very, very fine point. This particular provision is also contained in Chapter 14 of the zoning ordinance. So it's not technically a variance, which would have to go in front of the Board of Adjustment. And in front of the Board of Adjustment, the standard is hardship. So what we're doing is instead a very slightly different and more impactful and appropriate approach to accomplishing a similar result. We're simply going to suspend the impact of that particular ordinance as it relates to this particular improvement on this particular piece of property. The end result may seem the same, but how we get there is, in our opinion, much more appropriate. And we don't make a mockery of a standard that the state kind of dictates in their legislation.
We have questions for Roy?
And once again, this is the product. I think I put a picture of this is the exact tower that they'll be providing. And once again, it's made to imitate shiplap wood siding. It's made out of metal, in a very stout metal, I might add.
Roy, would this have to be updated periodically?
Actually, what we did is we put a sunset on there. This is in effect until they apply for a permit, okay, to do something to this tower. Let's say they have an accident, they burn it to the ground, and they got to get a new one.
Okay.
We would go through the same process, but we would, look at the ordinance as it looks at that time and what they're proposing at that time. They both may be different. So there is a sunset, so to speak, and that's how long it lasts, until they apply for a permit for this particular improvement.
But if they're setting the building on fire on the inside and all the windows turn black, do they have to?
As long as they don't need a building permit, they're good. That's how we define the sunset, I'll call it. I don't know if Aaron has a better word for it, but the impact of your resolution will last until they apply for another building permit that is part of that tower. Now, they can remodel the fire station all they want, as long as this thing doesn't, it's going to have a separate permit, by the way. And if they need a new permit to repair it, rebuild it, whatever, we'll go through the process again.
Okay.
But the ordinance may be different by then.
Yeah.
Chief, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I mean, Royce summed it up. So, basically this is a tower that's manufactured by a company that does a lot of these. There's only 3 in the nation, and it's supposed to be the Cadillac of the towers, and changing their general design has a lot of complications to it. Different concrete, on and on and on. The tower is not going to be really visible from Loman Ford Road. It's going to be behind a fire station. Right. So it would speed up the process. I think it makes sense. Obviously, I'm the fire chief, but I think it makes sense as a citizen, and I would like to not have this tower under construction on January 3rd when ISO comes out here, and that shouldn't be the driving force. But we need to have it. Just so you know, there's no live burns that's in there. You can't even do it anymore. I mean, all the federal laws, so it's all gas and just, so it's not like you're going to be driving by and there'll be a lot of smoke there, different things. I mean, I'm not saying that there will never be, but it's really not meant for that. It's more rescue and advancing hose lines. So it's a requirement. And we have creeping up.
No hay or pallets?
No wood. It's just all going to be, unless my training officer does something that's outside the design. I mean, Mayor, you're a fireman, so I'm not going to say what firemen are not going to do, because I get surprised every day, but they get bored. But if we don't get this thing under construction pretty quick, then also we've got the fire academy that's in conjunction with the school, and that program is starting next year. And I would hate to have another delay and not be able to fulfill our obligation to the school and get these kids trained as firefighter EMTs. So I'm personally asking you, unless you see a problem with it, to approve it so we can move forward and get this thing under construction.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 18-1773.
Second.
I'll second.
I believe Dave got it. He beat you. All right, I got a motion and a second. All those in Is any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, I want to go through it.
If you retire from Austin, I'll give you a job.
All right. All right, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Number 5, approved minutes from the September 20th, 2018 regular council meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries. All right, discussion, number 6, Lago Vista Village discussion.
Mayor, this item was requested to be placed on the agenda for discussion by council. City Council previously voted to enter into the agreement to locate City Hall at the Lago Vista Village and to occupy the second floor of the Lago Vista Village. Staff is working through some of those items, and we put it on the council agenda for that discussion.
All right. And Mr. Mayor, I'm the one that requested this. I have some thoughts about it, but quite frankly, the main reason why I did is because we hadn't discussed this in open session. And while I've been campaigning, through the fall, I've had people who've raised the issue, both pros and cons, and I just thought it was a good idea to allow folks to come forward and speak about it. And so I would personally, I'm going to refrain and wait till after the public has had an opportunity to voice their thoughts, and then I'll be happy to give my thoughts at that time.
Anybody else up here? All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and go to the public at this time. First of all, I have Joanne Smith.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Smith. I live at 20609 Oak Ridge. I am speaking on behalf of myself as a taxpayer. I have lived here in Lago Vista since January of 2005, almost 14 years. I have never had the opportunity to vote on any major spending. I did not have a voice on the purchase of a mansion. I did not have a voice on the purchase of 2 18-hole golf courses when both were either shut down or in bankruptcy. In my opinion, we need infrastructure first. I see state candidates from the current governor on down in commercials advocating caps on property taxes. If successful, all city councils around the state will be severely impacted on tax revenues. We are already covering shortfalls with existing operations. Where will you take the money needed without cutting basic services? The city needs to sell some assets before spending more money. Last year at the Candidates Night Forum, I heard from several candidates, we need roads, roads, roads. I have heard little to none about roads and infrastructure. This now leads to ask all to consider bringing this to a public ballot. Let the citizens say yes or no. If this is such a good idea for our town, there should be no problem in its passage. It's our tax dollars. After all, you were elected by the good people of Lago Vista to guard our tax dollars. Please let us have a say for once for this kind of spending. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I have Dale Mitchell.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff. This will be a continuation of my addressing you from 2 weeks ago. This is, as far as I know, the only time you've had an open meeting discussion of this item. When the city council voted on the lease. They had the discussion in executive session and came out and voted 5-2 to have the city manager go forward on what was discussed in the executive session. The only other thing that's been public before this was a line item on the CIP that said $500,000 for the build out of the Lago Vista Village. So that's the only thing that's been public that I know of to this date. And a little brief history that I started out 2 weeks ago was, we did, after we decided to buy property from the school district and put the police station at the far end here, we did in fact convene a municipal complex committee in 2009 that went through and thought about how we could develop this entire area as a municipal complex, with the thoughts that maybe we would even sometime procure the properties that are on Don Drive and make this entire complex. And again, in a comprehensive plan that the citizens did participate in, there was no discussion at all about moving the city hall or anything out of the municipal complex at that time. And in fact, there's a reinforcement that this area needs to continue to be developed as a municipal complex. So now we're talking about a lease of the second floor of the Lago Vista Village with a $500,000, which is no small sum, for the build out. Public money being put into the development of a privately owned building or a commercially owned building by a corporation. Public money. I don't know that we've ever done that from my knowledge of Lago Vista's existence to this date. So there are really, that's really a trap at that stage in my mind. So obviously I'm against it. Then we talk about the 380 agreements you passed about 2 weeks ago. There are 380 agreements in there. And the terminology obviously is very much the same, and because you started out with one, I think, with the Lago Vista and the Lago Vista Village 380 agreement. And in the first whereas, underneath the recitals, it says, and to provide increased tenants for retail business development. To provide increased tenants for retail business development. That's in all three of the 380 agreements. Then if you go in and look at the one from Lago Vista Village itself, 2.15 project means development of approximately 4.42 acres for retail business development. And as you go into the tenants 380 agreement, you have 2.10 that says program, stimulate business and commercial activity within the city. 2.11 project means lease of retail space in Lago Vista Village. Now my assumption is that the tenants, because the agreement says for Lago Vista Village that the owner will secure 4 tenants within the first 12 months. My assumption is, because of this background of what the 380 agreements is for, is those tenants must all be retail or commercial tenants. The city or the fire department or whatever that goes in there cannot be a tenant under this agreement, because it's all based upon retail and commercial development. I'm against your taking this City Hall area. You do not have any lease or rental on this building, and the complex development plan that we had always put together was for you to expand out this way, the library expand this way, and that's why the previous city manager, Bill Angelo, procured these lots behind us. So that's all I have to say this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, I have Greg Teal.
Good evening. Just a brief background. I moved here a couple of years ago and brought 2 businesses. One is Austin Stone Storage, which we just got approved by the City Council of Jonestown last week. I spent a lot of time looking at the village. I looked at purchasing that personally, and when I got into it, just the numbers didn't make sense. And I have concern that, you know, the money you be spending, I mean, the place needs a new roof. The infrastructure inside that building is lacking substantially. And from a business owner perspective, I would hate to see that not be retail. Aesthetically, I think it needs to be retail. And you already own the property you're in, and I think it's wise to stay in the property that you personally own. My second business, I build custom homes here, and I beg you to improve the roads, get the infrastructure in, because I came from the Woodlands where I've watched the city grow, and the growth is coming here. And if we don't prepare the infrastructure pieces, we're going to be chasing our tails and be very embarrassed as a city. So please, please, please go after the infrastructure piece and don't buy another or spend more money on something that you already have space for. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all I have signed up to speak, so Dick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got to tell you, folks, I drive through that parking lot every morning because I had a lady steal my mail out of my mailbox and mark me deceased. So I don't have a mailbox at my house anymore. So I go to the post office every single morning that, during the week. And I've looked that place over extensively. There's no way to get access out of the back. So doing anything with it from a standpoint of unloading trucks or doing any of that is going to be difficult at best. So I think they're going to have a good time doing what they want to do there. Our friends at the Lago Vista, what do you call it? Where the lake and the golf courses and all that are controlled. They voted not to use it for their purposes. And, yeah, POA, yeah. And I think you're going to have a lot of discontent if we vote to do anything with that space either. So, like what I've heard from everybody else so far, I'm vehemently opposed. Thank you.
Jane?
I was real surprised you guys did this. I've been following the city council meetings. I'm like, I don't remember this. I don't remember this discussion. And you know how much trouble we've been in with councils and mayors doing things on their own without any city input. Got a couple questions. I didn't put my name on the list because I thought these might be answered. But what's the lease going to cost? We talked about build out. What's the lease? Because that's an ongoing expense. Does anybody have an answer?
We have that information.
We do.
Yeah.
How much is the lease?
I was just waiting for everybody to get to that point. The lease, Mayor, for that is the first 5 years, there's no lease payment. And then for the next 5 years, then it is $5 per square foot. And then there's a triple net payment that would be $3.15 per square foot in year one.
Okay, how many square feet are we talking about?
Roughly 12,000 or less.
Okay. Is this
the numbers? Wasn't it about 40,000 for the triple net, about 60,000 for the lease?
That'd be the total. Yes, sir.
So it's about once we start paying the lease payments, it'll be a total of close to 100,000, but 40,000 for the first 5 years paying the triple net costs.
And then that just
Over 15 years, the city manager told us it would be about 1.75 million, not only for the build out, but for all of our lease payments.
Gee, what could we build for $1.75 million, folks? Okay, that answers one question. Is the second floor over there ADA compliant?
Yes.
It is. Good.
Elevators.
That's good to hear. Though somebody said their roof needed fixing, so we better make sure the elevators work, right? What are we going to do with the current building? We got a lot of empty buildings in town. I don't want to see another one.
Well, we have several options for this building. But to
Okay.
get to one of your previous questions, I'd asked for a 15-year layout plan to see, to compare the costs, new construction and versus a lease. The estimates to stay in there over 15 years was 1.766. Okay, new construction 4.663.
I'm sorry?
For here.
What was the new construction was what?
New construction 4.663. Right? So, when we look at new construction to build out what we need going forward over the next 15 years, it was 2.5 to almost 3 times what it was to lease this space. Now, for this area, we're not looking to get rid of this as necessarily a, city-owned area and, just turn this over. We are kind of looking to bring value to this area. Right now, I don't see where having City Hall here actually brings any value to this area. What I would like to see in this area would be our community arts, our performing arts, our arts and entertainment move into this area. We've got expand our library, have little pocket parks, have our community center, things that the community comes here to do and spends a lot of time here doing, not just coming here to pay a water bill or to pick up a permit. This facility over there, it's got more major traffic off of 1431. It's more business oriented over there. I think that facility.
What was the original goal of moving over there? I mean,
that was not necessarily the goal. The goal was, again, to turn this whole area into a community like I've been pushing for a few years, a town square, where we've got commercial, retail, a town square where people come.
so the goal is not to move, it's to change this whole area.
Yes.
Is that right from all the council members? Is that?
Mr.
I know your plan.
And in order to do that, we have to, we don't have to, but it was best, I felt like it was best, in my opinion, it was best that we move city offices out of here to a place that we're not outgrown. We already can't fit what we have, what we need space for now. So we're going to need a larger facility one way or the other. So, moving was just part of opening up this area for growth and bringing something to the community, we're not stagnant. We've been stagnant for, I don't know how long. Sure, we're getting residential growth right now, but we're still not getting any business. Vistago's coming in, or they're just moving, expanding, but nothing else is happening. We're not growing. We're not bringing any tax dollars into this city other than rooftops. We have roughly $500,000 comes in retail sales tax. Let's do something that actually alleviates the property owners of ad valorem tax. Let's get sales tax in here. Let's get business. Let's get retail growth. Let's get economic development. Let's do something that shows we are an emerging community, not just sitting here.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I don't think we'll ever be a major retail hub.
Not major, but we need something.
To have people come in, you need people from around to come in, and we don't have people around. If there's people around, they can go to Marble Falls or Cedar Park. Nonetheless, that sounds great. But why do we have to move now? You know, why can't we get more, why do we have to do this now? That's my last question.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the reason that we have to do it now is that we have completely outgrown this facility. We are hiring new personnel, and we do not have a place to put them. This facility has been outgrown.
I've heard that.
The things that I looked at and the reason that I considered this as a positive thing to do, the only way that we are going to have the money in order to expand this building to make adequate space here is to get bond money.
Okay.
It's going to cost us $4 million to build what we need.
How are you paying for the build out? Where is that money coming? Is that in the capital improvements? Is it already in the budget?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's there. Now, it's going to take at least a couple of years, maybe 3, to actually do this. Because first, we've got to pass the bond. We've got to get the money. Then we've got to do the planning. Then we've got to do the building. And a building of that size is going to take a good while. We need office space right now.
I've heard that.
This can be available to us in just a few months.
I only have one more question. Why are we now having a discussion? Why was this done in an executive session?
It deals with real property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
I did want to answer one more question though. On your infrastructure and stuff. Again, we are limited because we're having to deal everything off of ad valorem taxes or off bonds. If we can bring, again, retail growth, sales tax, that opens up revenues that we do not currently have in this city. Yes. David.
May I speak? Dale, hold on for a minute. The reasons why I was behind doing this, 1, the city does need space. 2, that gentleman spoke about it right there where he said infrastructure is needed. We need to do something on roads and we need to do something on pipes. If I was going to vote for a bond, it would be to fix the streets and the pipes, not to build a building. If it's going to cost us more money to build something than to put something into Lago Vista Village. Secondly, I've lived out here since '91. That building has been vacant for 12 years, all right? You now have 1431 building a medical facility. The post office is there. The fire department is there. Why not make that more of a focus so that when people are driving from Marble Falls to Cedar Park, they can see a building that says City Hall. They can see EMS have something in that building. They can see the pet center, pet manufacturer have something in that building. They could see the VA hospital across the street, and also the post office is right there. So it becomes more of a center of town. Now this building, there is nothing in this city except for K Oaks, for community groups to get together and have an event, have a gathering, have a meeting. This building, $400,000 was to do Lago Vista Village. $100,000 was to remodel this building so that it could be a community meeting center where you could have a meeting. If you had 20 people and you needed people to meet, they could meet here. If you needed the Lago Vista volunteers to have somewhere to store more equipment, they could put it here. If you had different things that are needed in the community, it could still be here and we would still own this building. It's not to say that Lago Vista Village, that City Hall would always be there. As this city grows, you'll need more places to be. The second thing is the type of amenities that I hear that people want, you know, in order to do that, you need to show Lago Vista is viable and visible to the public, all right? We're spending a lot of money trying to do the Cedar Breaks, to have baseball fields and soccer fields. Well, okay. If I lived in Cedar Park or Leander and had a son that was coming out here to play in a tournament, I'd bring him out here one day. I'm not bringing him out here 2 days, okay? If you want a hotel in this town, You need to be able to show that Lago Vista is viable, visible, and can stand on its own. That way you can get a hotel. Everyone wants amenities, but they don't want to do the things that are going to bring amenity. If you want restaurants to come into this town, such as an Italian restaurant like you have Brock's or the Habanero Grill, and if you want more things to come in that center, you need to do the things that make Lago Vista seem brighter than lights. I'm not saying that we will never build on this land that's right over here, but it's going to be 6 or 7 years. I mean, if I could do something right now, let's do streets and pipes. We've identified the pipes. We know what pipes need to be replaced. It is going to take about $5 million to do these streets. So if we have to do bonds and loans, and I'd rather do it on streets and repairs than spend the $400,000 and have the city have a place where everyone says when they come to court, that's where my court is. Put the court up on the main street so people can see it. Make it visible. That's my comments. Thank you very much.
Mr. Yes.
Oh, hold on. Kevin.
Okay. So I stopped and talked with Josh a couple of weeks ago, and when we spoke about this, we talked about building something here, as was in the master plan. He told me at the time, well, we don't need this right now. So I don't know where this, we got to do something right now, otherwise we're going to be busting at the seams is coming from, because that's not what I heard from Josh. The other thing I'd say is that when we were in executive session, the numbers that were provided to us were 1.75 million for moving into Lago Vista Village and 100,000 if we were to stay here, because we already own this facility. No numbers, no 4.6 million was provided in our executive session. I don't know where that came from. Okay, and before you continue, I just want to ask Doug a quick question. Would it cost $450 a square foot to build a 10,000 square foot, one-story building? $450 a square foot?
You already own the land?
Yes.
Probably less than that.
I would think substantially less.
I can tell you that the building that we're building, 7,000 square feet, is costing well in excess of $2 million. Well in excess.
Okay.
I can tell you this too, labor, steel, building materials are rising parabolically.
Fair
So
enough.
if your funding efforts to do something like that are going to take a period of time, I don't know,
It's only going up is what your point.
it's never going to be cheaper than today.
Okay, fair enough. I think that I got several main points. Number one, there's nowhere in our master plan that talks about moving over to Lago Vista Village. It all talks about being here. And what I don't understand is I think everyone would like to see the Dawn corridor be successful. Why taking out the biggest tenant that has the biggest traffic flow out of this area is going to help Dawn Drive grow is beyond me. I'm sorry, but I'm going to continue, Doug. The other thing I would say is that the $500,000 that we would be putting into this facility for the build out, that's $500,000 we're taking out of our reserve fund to go put into someone else's asset. We will not own it. We will not be able to take anything out of it when we move out of there. Even Dave, I think, said that it's not a permanent solution. We're going to go do something else. We will be enhancing someone else's asset with taxpayer dollars, and we will never get anything out of it other than usage while we're in there. And I would compare that to other incentive packages that we have done. If you take a look at what we did for the Super S/Lowe's, I asked Star the other day, how much was the total over the 10 years? $115,000 is what they got back. And it came out of sales taxes that they had remitted to the city. Okay, we didn't pull stuff out of general fund. They got money back from what they had remitted to the city. With Vistago Print, we estimate that it will be in the range of $55,000 that we will pay out to them over the 5 years. So you're talking about one business that we drastically needed in our town, the grocery store, and one business that's a paragon in the community. That grand total, we're talking about giving them $170,000 in incentives, and that's tax dollars that they've paid to us that we're giving back to them. For this particular vendor, who has been not a paragon of our community, we're talking about spending $500,000 to improve their asset, and we'll never get that back. I cannot fathom that. I do not understand that. And I guess the last point I would make is that I don't care if it's $200 a square foot, $300 a square foot. If we build something here, it follows the master plan, it enhances the traffic around the Dawn Drive area, and we own it. We own it. And we'll be able to use it in perpetuity. We're not paying someone lease payments that we'll never get back. I just can't fathom taking taxpayer dollars and going enhancing someone's asset to the tune of $500,000. I don't get it. To me, this makes no financial sense. I had my say. I'll shut up.
Mayor, just before I just wanted to clarify a couple of numbers before Doug or anybody else. The numbers that Councilor Sullivan is referencing is this handout that City Council, as the mayor already alluded to, asked for when we went to executive session, and everyone had this handout. The assumption was based on $280 per square foot for a facility that would be $3.5 million. $280 per square foot was something that we got from Mr. Casey and two other builders in this community was the number we came up with. That was amortized over a 15-year term using 3.75% interest, also which is on this document, which, as any of us know that have purchased any property, $3.5 million over 15 years is not $3.5 million. It turns out to be $4.661 million. So that's just if we were to do the loan version or if we do some other version at an interest rate of that. So just that's the numbers. The other two numbers were spot on. We agree on those numbers. So.
All right. Doug, that lady back here had her hand up first. Yeah, if you don't mind.
My name is Myra Prince, and I've lived in Lago Vista since 2004. My husband and I own Cordovan Art School. We opened a campus here in Lago Vista in January. We have served and taught over 360 art lessons since the beginning of the year. This community longs for a place to meet for free,
Right.
to have lessons, to have time together. We have lonely people in this community that are drawn together by art. So I'm here for the other side. I am here because I want us to move into City Hall. I believe in this area by the library. I believe that we could make a beautiful facility here for people to come and be a part. I believe in the arts. I believe in the acting group here. I believe in the singing group here. And I think that it's something that makes our community a place where people want to be. And Cordovan has partnered with several other communities with their city to create beautiful art cities. Round Rock Art Space is a partner project with Cordovan Art School. The Georgetown Arts Center is a partner program with Cordovan Art School. The Chalk Walk in Round Rock is a partner program with our school. We want to bring events like that here. We have 4 world-famous artists in Lago Vista. In the time I've lived here, they've never been able to have a single show. There is no facility for that. And I think we do them a disservice. And I think our young budding artists in our community, we have a student in our school this year that won the whole Round Rock Imagine Show division. I would like to see her work on display. I would like to see her have a better teacher to encourage her. So I ask you today to consider, as we move out of City Hall, to letting us partner with you with sweat equity, with hours, with time, with experience to create something beautiful in this space. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Doug.
I've lived in Lago Vista since the mid-90s. I've been a builder, a developer here in town for that entire time. And in some of my capacities, I have heard from large developers, and I'll cite Hines as probably the largest I've dealt with, about the economic impact of that strip center being vacant. In the framework of how Hines looks at the Lakeside community, that is one of the biggest detriments to growth that they have. I think that just in the conversation I have in terms of economic development conversation, and people looking and considering coming to Lago Vista, that one item, that strip center being vacant for 12 years is an extremely damning testament to our city. I can also explain some of why it's happened, because at the time that strip center was brought to market, we went through some significant economic downturns. The advent of retail having such a difficult time, especially in a community like this, make it challenging. And then when you have an owner of a facility that seems disinterested in trying to really do something in terms of leases on a proactive basis, I think ultimately that are all factors into why it hasn't been successful so far. I know if I had owned that strip center, I would have targeted some businesses to come in there. I've made mention of this. We would have gone after, I'm trying to remember, Trader Joe's. I would have called them. I would have been on the phone with their retail people, their land people, and said, look, your footprint is 15,000 square feet. I'll give it to you for 5 years. I'll build it out for you, and I'll be there to carry the groceries in the place to get you open. Because that would have gone ahead and first of all, labeled and branded not only that strip center, but probably our community, and it would have led to being an anchor tenant with others following suit. It would have been very successful, I would think, for them ultimately. As you know, I have personally some history with that building, and I can answer some of the structural questions with that building. I did have my roofer up there. The roof does not leak. I had MLAW bring their entire engineering team, their structural engineering team, which was 12 people, they use it as a training exercise, to the building, and they spent the entire afternoon there going through every bit of that structure. They did not find, and I have a report that says they did not find any structural faults with the building. So the building is in actually pretty good shape. It's kind of, I'm not sure who says the roof leaks, but it does not. And I have that as documentation. The other thing that I think that would be worthy of considering is the flip side of the equation. And I'm going to support what we do with this facility. It has been, Kevin, you were saying that this area is longing for economic growth. I disagree with you. I've been here when the Sunset Village project was proposed at the end of Dawn Drive. I don't know if you remember that debacle, but there were thousands, there were hundreds of people wearing T-shirts saying, not my neighborhood, all right? That seems to be kind of a consensus in Lago Vista. We want it, but we don't want it here.
Dawn Drive.
I'm sorry?
That's different than Dawn Drive. They didn't
That
want
is
it down
Dawn
the
Drive. It was the end of Dawn Drive.
It was in the neighborhood, Doug. It's different. This area is zoned commercial.
Okay, I had a property that was zoned R4 residential, and they didn't want there either. I'm just telling you, there's the NIMBY attitude in Lago Vista is very alive and very well.
I hear that, but you heard the mayor, his reasoning for why we would want to potentially do this, and that's to, grow this particular area.
Well, I think that you will continue to grow this area, but in a different direction than having city facilities here. I think as long as the city owns the building and using it for public space. I grew up in a little town called Rocky River, suburb of Cleveland, and one of the biggest things that city had for it was their senior center and their community center. Mm-hmm. That place was busy as much as the doors were open. Now, we have K-Oaks here, but that's private. That's not a citizen-owned building. So you have to make appointments and you have to follow the POA rules, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's served. But having a public facility for public arts, and I have a vested interest in art. My wife is an artist. So she was like, yeah, this is a good idea.
But there's nothing, if we were to follow the comprehensive master plan and build
I was on the master plan.
Hall between here and the library, that wouldn't preclude keeping this building for that exact purpose, the arts.
But the master plan also called for 2 bridges going across Lake Travis.
That's not under our control.
Yeah, exactly.
This is.
What I'm saying is that the master plan was a guideline. It was put on by Freese and Nichols. I can tell you that Freese and Nichols was really interested in going ahead and getting paid. The amount of time and effort that they put into the master plan, I think, could have been improved, just as a commentary. I think some good things that came out of it. Like I said, I was on the CPAC committee. I was at every one of those meetings. But when a city is looking to go ahead and figure out how you're going to raise revenues, how you're going to go ahead and stimulate commercial growth, you can accomplish it in a couple ways. But first of all, understand that Main Street is 1431. That is de facto truth. It is 1431. That is where the business district of Lago Vista is. To have a prominent headquarters for the city on Main Street is not a bad idea. I don't think it's going to hurt the city.
If the city were following the plan that the POA and the ESD were going through, where you were going to buy it and it was going to be a condo situation, I'd be all for it because we'd own it and we wouldn't be paying property taxes. But this is not that situation. We're leasing. We're throwing the money away.
Well, maybe we should revisit that idea.
I'd be more than happy to do that.
So would I.
I just think that what's on the table right now is not a good public policy decision. It's not good use of public funds.
But you do, if you're getting this thing for 5 years for free.
No, we got the triple net payments we got to pay. Plus we have the $500,000 up front for the build out. We don't have you doing it for us.
We got 400
and moving us over there and carrying our groceries. They're making us pay for it.
Understood, but you're going to go ahead and have maintenance costs. And what is the carrying cost and what is the cost to stay and rehab this building? I did the first rehab. I have numbers.
Is what we were told.
Okay, and does that buy you more space?
No, does not get us more space.
All right. So your delta is $300,000.
400.
Well, you said it was 400 for the build out of that.
The build out was 500,000. Yeah, it's not 400, it's 500.
400 over there and 100,000 over here.
To rehab it for public use.
500,000 is
the number for over there. Yeah, it's 500 over there.
Okay. In any case, that being what it is, and I don't want to get into the dollars and cents, I think that there's two ways to look at how you fill the pot. All right. If we can agree that strip center as it is currently is a negative economic situation for the city that must be overcome to get other developers, other people to look into this. And you can go ahead and take a proactive step to cure it where you do go ahead then and start bringing in retail and the taxes that retail brings in. I can tell you, I as a taxpayer would love not to have so much homeowner tax if we could subsidize,
Completely agree, but there's no retail going in there. You're talking about a commercial, a manufacturing business and a bunch of governmental entities. There's no retail going in there.
Well, the governmental entity is only on the top. You still have 60,000 square feet below.
You got ESD going in part of it, and potentially ISD going part of it.
ESD is not going in the strip center, are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying that the current model that we've chosen with the lease payments and the build out, it doesn't make sense. Like I said, I'd be a huge advocate for the condo model that we'd originally talked about when the POA was talking about doing it, but this model's no good.
We tried.
I understand. I just don't think it's a smart financial decision. It's not a smart way to spend taxpayer dollars. And with the arts issue, I'm all in favor of let's build here, between here and the library, and maintain this particular space here for exactly that. Just because we keep with the master plan and build here instead of moving over to Lago Vista Village doesn't mean we can't keep this building for exactly the purpose that you just spoke about. I think it'd be a wonderful use of it. And then you'd have a much larger footprint all of a sudden that's being used for very successful purposes.
Mr. Mayor, if we had the money to do that right now, that would be a great plan. But we don't have the money to build another building. I mean, it's a lot easier to take $500,000 and, build out and change this into a community center and get things going.
I respectfully disagree.
And we will respectfully disagree.
Yes.
Okay? So.
My 2 cents has been heard, but thank you for
thank you, sir.
letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Dale?
Yes, Doug, we did spend a lot of time on the comprehensive plan committee. What Freeze and Nichols tried to do was get citizens' input on that plan as best they could. We chose Freeze and Nichols for that reason because they had the capability of drawing people up, and we had it. So all of the stuff that the citizens said is in there, and we just kind of reinforced that. But to speak to how you get retail in the community, subsequent to that, you might recall Melissa Vosmer, our city manager at the time, plus the chamber president, Keith Billington, and Elaine, the director, and we went on a economic development kind of retail recruitment plan and tried to go entice people to come and take a look at Lago Vista. And we did that for 2 years, as I recall, out of a 3-year contract. And what we heard from everybody was the rooftops will demand, the number of rooftops will demand the retail space. We'll come when you're big enough to take care of us and support our activity. So if you think you're going to get retail without more rooftops, no. The rooftops drive everything here. Now, are you going to get more rooftops with the streets the way they are, or the infrastructure the way they are? That's why I just don't like the timing on this whole thing. It didn't come through any public discussion, any citizen discussion or knowledge about this. And when you say the presence on 1431 will do a lot, show that to me on the bottom line. Is that an expense or is that a revenue for your being over there? No. Now, the other thing I want to bring up is I didn't see anywhere in the budget where it was an explanation of what growth there was in the city force here in City Hall. The budgets previously used to have a department discussion as to how many people we were adding in each department. None of that was in this year's budget. It was out. So I don't even know whether you added anybody. I don't. I don't know what you added to the force in this year's fiscal budget that's already started in October.
I'm pretty sure it was in there. We talked about.
No, it's not.
Yeah, we
You just-
definitely had the.
You just go,
economic-
you go look at the copy in the library and there's no discussion about any of
Definitely
that.
had the hiring of the new economic development director.
New
And
GSI.
the one that was gonna be split between, I'm sorry.
The GIS.
Okay.
and-
So 2? 2, and you're outgrowing here.
Yes,
2.
we have no offices for them here.
Well, you can't just look at the 2 new people. You also have to look at the people that are actually in offices now. You have Meredith and Stan sharing an office that's like a cubbyhole.
There's 3 of them in
You
that
know,
office.
Yeah, I mean, so there is room for, there is a need for expansion. There is a need for a lot of things. You have 300, we've had 362 or 370 new homes since the beginning of the year, fiscal year, somewhere in there.
Just depends on how you look at it, but 270 is about our number on a full cycle of the year.
You know, you have more people moving into Lakeside by Tessera. There's a whole new development going back in there. You know, we have a split city. We have people that are younger with families that are all excited about moving up to Lago Vista Village. We have the 50 and above, they're not so sure, you know. I think we gotta do a balance and try to make the best possible decisions. You put me in a position to make logical decisions. Well, logical decisions is we need to focus in, again, on streets and pipes. And if I'm going to spend $5 million, it's going to be on streets and pipes. And I don't want to have to take out a bond or a loan to build a new building right over here when I want it to be first on streets and pipes. Then we can figure out all the other things that we need to do. But everyone keeps on talking about streets and pipes. Yes, it would be nice if we could do every street right now, but we have to fix the pipes that are underneath those streets. And it took a little while, and Ron spent a lot of time trying to figure out what pipes needed to be replaced where, and I think we've gotten a better handle on that. And I mean, it's time now to fix the streets and pipes.
But Dave, this is the one question I'm not understanding is that if we were to make this move to Lago Vista Village, we're talking about we'd have to build it out. It is going to cost us $500,000. That $500,000 is likely to come from our general fund because no place else for it to come from. That's money that could be spent on streets and pipes, but isn't because it's going to go to spend on building out Lago Vista Village. And that's something we would do in the next 6 months.
Well, we put a substantial amount of money into fixing streets and pipes now. We have money in the budget for streets and pipes. But it's just that in order for us to do an aggressive plan on streets and pipes, we need an aggressive bond package or an aggressive loan package to make it happen. So if we could just take $500,000 and get Lago Vista Village visible to the public and get more stuff going on 1431, it just makes sense to me. You know,
I think the problem is I don't see I think Mayor, former Mayor Mitchell kind of alluded to this. What's the return on investment? We're going to go spend $500,000 over there to build it out, and then we'll be spending $40,000 a year for leasing. And what will be the return that we get on that? There won't be any. There's no incremental revenue that we'll get there. In fact, it'll be cost. And what's the incremental revenue here? We're talking about arts groups. You heard us talk about sweat equity and things like that. No dollars, okay? Where are the dollars going to come from? The incremental dollars.
You have not created a reason for people to want to be here. And you know and I know that this city, if you look at 10 years of growth in Lago Vista, you can brag on one. One. We had a growth rate that was flatlined for years. I can tell you, I've had many, many conversations with potential homeowners who have chosen to go elsewhere. And some of the reason for that is lack of facility, lack of things to do, lack of places to be. You know, you look at what Round Rock did. I moved to Round Rock in 1982. And it was the same size as Lago Vista, 6,000 people. We used to go downtown on Main Street for a bonfire.
Plot a dell next to us and we might grow like that too.
Well, but what happened was because people moved in there, the growth just went crazy, all right? Every time a school was built, a subdivision or two followed. They went from 6,000 people back in the mid-'80s to 120 now, something like that. It's, I mean, a big number. You know what they're doing, what their biggest remediation project is right now is building their downtown at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money.
And where's their city hall?
It's at their
right at the
main
edge,
street.
right at the edge of down their downtown district.
Absolutely.
And so that's
This
what.
is not
But this is not
Downtown is
downtown.
1431,
If you go take a look at their downtown district, it looks more like Dawn Drive than it does I-35.
not in proximity, it's one street off of I-35. I spent a lot of years there.
Yeah.
Well, I know Ron sent us an email just the other day, showed that Lago Vista was the fourth boringest city in the state of Texas. 2016, the fourth most boring city in the state of Texas. I would sure like to see that changed.
Well,
Out of 362 municipalities.
As younger people move in here, you will start to feel the demand.
And all that's great. I'm just saying, I don't think this particular move is going to be the catalyst for that. I have not seen any proof of that whatsoever. There's a lot of hope and desire, but I don't see any proof of that. And quite frankly, if we were to build right here, the city hall right here, and turn this into an arts facility, you get the same thing that we're talking about. Plus, you still have all the traffic of people coming to city hall right here to continue keeping traffic in this area.
And what have you done for your largest boondoggle?
So nothing's going to change the fact that they already have the pet medical company going in there, okay? So why do we?
Is that a done deal? I have heard it's not a done deal.
And it may not be, but I guess my point is that last time we met, we passed the incentive packages. To me, that's a smart thing for the city to do, to provide incentives over there to help that thing move along. What's not smart is for us to give 3 times the amount of investment into their asset as we've given the Super S Lowe's and Vistago Print. That's ridiculous to me, that we're talking about making that much of an investment in their asset over these other 2 that have been paragons of our community. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Any developer that comes here to Lago and builds a moonscape, we just bail them out? Is that what you're suggesting?
If that is the greatest hill to going ahead and turning the corner towards future development, then yeah, I mean.
But you've got no proof that us going over there is going to turn us into something magical, like fairy dust.
I think that just having cars in the parking lot and taking that off the table of a dead, as a big reason why you don't come to Lago Vista as a developer.
And I hear it.
I'm not hearing this conversation. This is a reiteration, a regurgitation, if you will, from the biggest developer you have in town.
And it logically makes sense. I just don't know that public entities are the ones to bail them out. Okay? We're spending taxpayer dollars. It's not your dollars or my dollars, it's everybody's dollars.
We got that guy.
Let's look at an investment we can make. We have agreed to hire an economic development guy. Okay? Money, pay us all. He's gotta bring us in some money, because if he doesn't, he won't. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. But, we also have in place, active now, with David up there, his involvement, my involvement, a few other people, have an economic development committee that's meeting at least monthly. So we are working on an economic development in the city, we are not against it. But to go into a place like that, it is a boondoggle at best, and that's all it's ever been, it would be a tragic mistake. I gotta agree with you. How are you gonna pay for it?
I just have a whole different look on this. First off, the city never moved into Lowe's. The city is not going to move into Vistago. The city's not going to have offices in there. They're not going to be using the facility on a daily basis. That's things that cost you money. So the discussion of this is as some kind of revenue producer to me is inconsequential. The reason that this is important is what we just talked about a minute ago. We got 300 new homes. We've got people moving into those homes. We've got younger people coming into this community. We're growing. We're changing. We're going to need more facilities. The city is going to have an increased demand on everything that we do. And this building is not adequate size. And building another building over here is years away. If we're going to spend bond money, I'm going to spend it on pipes and streets. I am not going to spend it on a damn building. This is a way to get us the space that we need so that the city can go on down the road without having to tie up all of our money in building another building that we'll outgrow. Let's spend the money to get us a place where we can go and function. It's not money to improve their business. It's money so that we have a place to work. Let's do that. Let's get moved. Let's go someplace where we can go on down the road. And then let's worry about getting bond money, indebtedness, to fix the things that count. The pipes, the streets, the things that are important that will help us advance down the road. To me, just sitting here is not accomplishing what we need to do. Now, I appreciate the master plan. I appreciate all the effort that was done by previous councils and previous mayors. But there isn't anybody in this town that will not tell you this community is changing rapidly. What we were looking at 4, 5, 6 years ago is not what's going on here now. And if we're going to be what we need to be for the citizens, we've got to have the ability to take care of their needs. And their needs are going to be expanding. We're going to have to expand with it. And this facility doesn't cover it. When you've got 3 people that are crammed into a space for 1, you've got people and desks shoved all over the place. And now we're hiring 2 new people that God only knows where we're going to put them. Nobody has a real plan for where we're going to put an economic advisor, economic development individual when they get here. It is time to start thinking about moving on. Now, did this come into the master plan? No, but we weren't here 5 years ago.
Master plan was 2015-16.
Okay, we weren't here 3 years ago. Okay? The thing is, we're to a point we need to look down the road. And I think all this argument about economic development and all that kind of thing is all good. What I'm looking at is getting us a place where we can do our business, meet the citizens' requirements for facilities, and just go on and get with it. Now, the advantage of having this for all kinds of things, I think is wonderful. Why, in a community that's twice as large as what we have just down the road, can't have a community center like they do in Jonestown? I don't understand. I haven't understood it since I got here. You go over there, there are things going on in that community center all day long for the citizens in Jonestown. We have nothing that compares with that. This would be well,
the
The
library.
meeting room is busy all day long.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but the library is in need of space too, so you can move that meeting room that they have and allow them to remodel that area and have more library space, which they're in drastic need of, and the meetings could be in this building.
And I know they're talking about expansion.
Absolutely, with all that activity.
Right.
You bet. Some of that expansion could move in here without having to build anything. There are opportunities and ways to use this for the betterment of our community. But as City Hall, this ain't getting it. And what we're looking at down the road to get something that will, and look at this chamber. We have had multiple meetings in the last year where we've had to turn people away at the door because they couldn't get in here for a meeting. It's just time to move on to something else.
Okay, rebuttal time.
All right.
2015-16 master plan. That was approved June of 2016. It's only, what, 2 years old, a little over 2 years old? And here we're talking about a wholesale change, taking out an anchor activity in a municipal complex that has been long sought for quite some time. It wasn't done before because we were sitting in a recession for 5 years and lakes were down 56 feet. The place was deader than a doornail, like Doug said. This previous city councils, and maybe even this city council, I don't know, are real good about acquiring assets, but they're not real good about disposing of assets. And so I'd like to see us sell all available assets and use those proceeds to sit there and try to do something in the future before we get too far ahead of ourselves. We're real good about buying stuff, but not real good about disposing it because they're all peculiar pieces of property, mansions and golf courses and things like that, things that are not really very liquid. And so I would like to slow this process down. It may be a good idea, but I don't think now is the time to do it. I really think we need to focus on what you new guys said when you got elected, which was roads, roads, roads. I heard that very loud and clear at the last candidates forum, and yet there's been no discussion until now that I hear about roads. And so I'm like, well,
Ron,
where's
that's
the plan for roads?
That's not true. Okay.
And so I guess my point being is, and the LVPOA tried to go in there a year and a half ago. And they had a public hearing on that, and they were pretty much told to pound sand. And so here we are thinking that we're probably better than the POA, I guess, and we're going to try the same thing again. And I think it's going to result in the same backlash from the citizens that we had a year ago. So I guess I just want to pause here. I don't think we need to move forward too fast and think about what we're doing. A lot of time and energy was spent on a master plan. In fact, it was probably about 18 months, if I recall correctly. And now, in the span of time that we built the master plan, we're really to trash the master plan and just take a complete right turn and a tangent and go in an entirely different direction. Well, maybe we made a mistake and built the police department in the wrong spot. Maybe we shouldn't have, expanded the library back in 2012 or whatever it was. Maybe we shouldn't have done that because we were on a path that was pretty well defined. And now we just kind of like say, stop, and student body right, and we're going to go over here. And I don't know that it's been thought through. I just don't think it's been thought through. And like I said before on the other topic last time, Confucius say easier to get engaged than disengaged. I said the same thing's going to be true with this one. We're going to get engaged real quick, and then it's going to be hard to get out of it. I don't know about legal, but some of the stuff with contracting may be a challenge. in this particular new facility. Normally, when you put government entities in private buildings, you generally take property off of tax rolls. You don't add to the tax rolls. So, we're kind of hurting ourselves with our own move, if you will. So those are all the things that I see happening right now. I just think this is like a solution looking for a problem. And I really wish we could do the problem first and then go solve it. It seems like everything's backwards. It's been that way a majority of my time up here. And I just don't want to see us make the same mistake. And I know I won't be here next time to fulfill the dreams and aspirations of those up here. But I guess that's one thing I'd like to part you with is I've sat there and watched 8 years worth of what I call less than stellar decisions being made on many different fronts that we're still living with today. I don't want this to be another one added onto the train. And so we've done a lot of good work in the last several years. We've cleaned up a lot of stuff and made a lot of good headway. I just don't want to backslide, that's all.
Mayor, I haven't said anything at this point. I see this as a gamble. Making the move now, I think that's the thing that is kind of sticking in people's craw is the idea that maybe we're moving in a direction that we need to kind of step back and do a little bit more thought, put a little bit more thought into making this move. My only real problem with this is actually the timing in doing this. I believe it's something that would probably benefit the city if we were to move there, because I do believe that we would get the recognition from the people that are looking for commercial build-outs and things of that nature. I'm just not too sure that this is the correct time to take that step.
And Mr. Mayor, I just have one last comment, and I'm probably short. When we were in executive session, I'll admit, I think you'll agree that I said I'm in favor of trying to help Lago Vista Village. I just don't think this is the right way to go about it, and I don't think it's the right time, as Mr. Davila just said. We talked about the former effort for the POA and others to go in there and to condo it and so forth. They would own it. I would be far more in favor of something along those lines because we would own it, and we'd be investing in an asset we own, and I think we'd be financially responsible to the citizens. I just think that the track we're taking now doesn't adhere to that. So.
One more.
I have a legal question. Under the 380 agreement, the tenant does not have to be a retail or commercial person to meet that 4 tenants in 12 months. I figured that was part of the deal.
Mayor, it doesn't have to be.
Huh?
It does not have to be.
Just because it says tenant instead of saying retail, but everything else in the 380 agreement has the umbrella of retail or commercial development.
Mayor, that's correct, but we've already vetted it. It's tenants. It's based on the number of tenants.
And we would be one of the 4.
We would be a tenant.
Yeah.
Correct.
That was part of the deal.
All right. We will now move on to the work session. Number 7, city manager reports.
Mayor, I have a couple items to report. None of these are fairy dust, but one's pretty close. We did report the FY18 end-of-year fiscal report that has been posted to the city website as of today. That'll show everyone the numbers for last fiscal year. We were very excited about those numbers. You'll recall we've talked about them quarterly. We've talked about them monthly. That report shows the September numbers. It compares September numbers of the current year, FY18, to last year, FY17. I did add a cover sheet onto that one report. We don't do cover sheets on monthly reports that we post online, but I encourage anyone that wants to look at those numbers for FY18 to go to the city website, click on Documents, which is right in the center of the page, and then click on Finance, and you'll see that as the top report on the website. and that'll give you that year-end review. Now, that's not the final audited numbers for the year. We will have the audit moving forward, and we hope to have that completed, started very soon, and then completed soon thereafter. So we'll have the audited numbers, which, as we do every year, we post the audit online, put it in public so people can review the annual audit just to verify those numbers. The only other update I have, Mayor, is Sandra's numbers from yesterday or from Tuesday said that we had 622 people vote yesterday. I think that was fantastic. A lot of people disappointed that we only had one early voting day in Lago Vista. To point that out, it doesn't matter the request that we make. It doesn't matter what we say. That's a Travis County decision, and it's the system that they are very confident in, and that's what they stick with. We will follow up after the election and say the same kind of comments that have been made by this city previously and just requesting some additional options and opportunities. But I encourage everyone that did not stand in line up until about 9 o'clock on Tuesday night to show up early on next Tuesday, which is Election Day. I believe it opens at 7 o'clock. So as they say, vote early, vote often, and at least get there to vote one time so that you can effectively decide what we're going to do for the propositions and for your city council. And I think there's might be some other people on there as well, but the most important are our city council and our propositions. That's all I have, Mayor.
Right. Future meetings. Number 8, consider schedule and items for future council meetings. We currently have.
I have none.
Very well.
Write that
Very
down.
Nice. Currently, we have liaison to Lago Vista POA, council liaison reports, landscaping ordinance, planning zoning update, and building committee update.
Gotcha.
What else?
Don't know.
All right. Well, if we have nothing else, then we will move on to executive session. Number 9, we will convene into executive session pursuant to sections 551.071, advice of counsel, 551.072, real property, 551.074, personnel, section 551.087, economic development, Texas Government Code, and Section 1.05, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct regarding A, consultation with legal counsel concerning any regular meeting agenda item requiring confidential attorney-client advice necessitated by the deliberation or discussion of said item as needed. B, consider, conduct, and discuss the city manager's performance evaluation. C, consultation with legal counsel and discussion concerning possible real estate acquisition, management, or divestiture and attendant matters thereto. D, consultation with legal counsel regarding contractual claims or possible claims or charges, contractual modifications, and questions related thereto. E, consultation with legal counsel and deliberate economic development incentives for projects located within the city of Lago Vista.
Mayor, before we go into executive session, I think this would be the proper time to recognize that this is the last council meeting for Councilmember Smith. I think he has put in 12 years of service to the city, 4 years on P&Z, 8 years on city council. I think this would be a good time to stand up and give him a standing ovation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought there was another meeting for that.
You do get to sit here until you the new people is sworn in.
Right, yeah.
Right, he'll be back on the 15th.
It won't be long.
All right, 9:03 PM.
One other thing that you guys should be aware of, and I just want to bring it up, your streets and road guys rock. They were heroes down on our street, getting stuff out of the way and whatnot. Really good.
Mockingbird?
Yeah.
Did you get my email?